What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Noodle Time, episode 141. I'm your host, Mark Segovia, alongside Andres Naranjo. What's going on, bud?
Hey man, pretty good. Life is great in the Big Apple. I
For
don't.
sure.
It's hard to hate right now.
Yeah, I was told in my lifetime an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Um, so hopefully everybody's enjoying their time in New York. The guys are all over there. I saw there was a little bit of a contingency of Dynamo fans and Yankee Stadium. So shout out to those guys who made that trip and got to enjoy that victory. Shout out to the people who are joining us right now on YouTube. And shout out to everybody who watches this in the future. So, but with that being said, Andres. Um, it's kind of funny doing these shows on a weekly basis. The ups and downs that we've been facing. As of late, and right now, I think we're going on on a nice little smooth ride upwards. And obviously, this is coming off the backs of a 3-0 win against New York City FC last night at Yankee Stadium, as I mentioned before. To a brace from I was gonna say Ted Siegel, Gabe Siegel, nephew, and an own goal to start off the to start the scoring proudness. Andres, your thoughts on the win? Obviously, your thoughts on the on the huge number of rotation that have been obviously started out with, which was, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was a little bit shaky about it. My guy here, he's happy, he's excited, this is and that, so it's all good. Obviously Monday morning quarterbacking now, you're like, man, what a um great trust he had in those rotational players that got in last night to give some of the starters rest. Obviously, Ponce wasn't available because of yellow card accumulation, and other factors, obviously, as well. But players like Eric Duenas got a chance. Lardero got a chance. As I mentioned, the goal scorer, Gabe Siegel, a great opportunity to come back against his former team and put up some goals. Just your thoughts on the overall match, overall game, what you thought the positives were, and your player of the match.
It was definitely a surprising result considering that we were heavily rotating this team after like as it's feel like forever with all the midweek games, uh, up on like stacked on top of the weekend games, and the grind
Yeah.
has been horrible.
Hmm.
Like heading to the international break with just one game to go, and a lot of people, a lot of Dynamo fans were expecting like a pretty bad draw or a worst case scenario, a loss here. And the win, like my initial prediction was kind of a draw because I was like, I don't know how we're gonna do because with the rotation, we've been kind of iffy with that to start of the year, and it could take a little bit longer for the team to start clicking, especially after a bad start of the year. And lo and behold, this team just comes out of the gate with an amazing performance. Obviously, the goals giving a little bit like here and there initially, but I feel like Houston has been doing like a pretty good job defensively this time around against New York City FC. They haven't been a good team per se, like historically speaking, because they've been like a very good offensive team for the most part for the past few years that I've been watching them. And this year for them has been like kind of a middle of the pack team in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
And when I was like looking at some of the highlights and some of the games they had, they looked like they weren't much of a threat. And like even though I kind of predicted that Houston was gonna get a draw here out of out of New York, it was still possible if they played their best game. And they just came over here. Defensively speaking, they were just able to stay on their toes most of the time. And I feel like that was essentially the main factor that happened in this game, or the main difference, because obviously we got a three goals, which is definitely which can definitely tell the story there. But I felt like for the most part, defensively speaking, like it did that that performance as a collective unit like did the difference here tonight.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I have to agree with you. Obviously, New York City FC is one of those tricky teams because we don't see them that often because of them being in the Eastern Conference, right? But obviously, we know the little bit of history for the little bit of time that they've been with MLS. Sometimes they have team full of stars during the David Villa, Frank Lampard, under this Pirlo era. They've been a championship team prior, winning MLS Cup, I believe, in 2021, if I'm not mistaken. um, and different levels. I mean, but New York City FC has always been a club that has been very competitive. Kind of one of those. Sometimes they're top tier in the Eastern Conference. Sometimes they're mid table, but they're always competitive. And they always have great players. Maybe they might not be as known as far as name recognition throughout the league, but pretty good players. From their developmental system, as far as the way they use their youth players and their homegrown players and things like that as well. But yeah, man, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was surprised. I saw the lineup, and I mean, aside from the defense, obviously, and goalkeeping, I mean, man, I questioned the midfield selection. I questioned the top three because I didn't see how we were going to produce anything, to be honest. I mean, obviously Jack McGlynn is up there in the wing, which is obviously a good thing to see. He was involved, but aside from that, the midfield was something that really kind of scared me, as far as like Reigns and Uso, who are more defensive minded midfielders, and Duenas. I didn't know how to feel about having him having so much responsibility as far as being the more offensive minded midfielder, between those in that group. So obviously, with the result that we got, glad to see what it was, and glad to see that Brooklyn Reigns and Russo and Duenas really stepped up for the midfield. Nicholas Ladero, being the veteran that he is, played a really, really good, solid game. Jack McGlynn as well, shout out to him. And then obviously, tip of the cap to Gabe Siegel. I mean, he was up there attacking, playing the number 9 role, and took advantage of the opportunities that he had. Honestly, I mean, he could have ended up with a hat trick. To be honest, in my opinion, if he had the opportunity, he had the chances. One was a really great save by Matt Freeze that really took you know denied a scoring opportunity for nephew, but I mean, obviously we'll take it. 3 points on the road is it's a wonderful feeling, especially coming off the bit of a disappointment in San Jose. But I mean, to make a cross country trip from San Jose to California to New York City in New York, and to be able to collect 4 points in that scenario. Obviously, had I told you that in the beginning, we would probably take that, right? Uh, and it's coming to the point where I think we as fans, supporters, even though I'm gonna acknowledge the fact that we are collecting points, and obviously now we're in playoff positioning. We're in a playoff spot at the moment, but I mean, obviously, I still can't help but to be a little bit, with a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth because of what happened in San Jose, letting those points go. But we'll get to that a little later. But I mean, like I said, um, I think for me, I think one thing that I'm really happy to see progress and progress really quickly is the combination as far as the rotation and the defense. With Andrade on the left, Escobar playing the right to give Dorsey a little bit of rest. Obviously, Obafemi, and Bartlow, and then obviously the guys coming in afterwards with Ortiz coming in, Dorsey coming in too. Later on in the game, so I mean, I'm liking the rotation. I like the fact that the chemistry is building up between those guys, and it's thus making our defense a lot stronger. What's going on, Jeff? I see orange greater than apples. Completely agree. Shout out to
Always.
you, Jeff. Always, always. So I mean, that's one of the good things. I mean, we I think after the the Miami game and the Portland game, our defense has been really, really, really strong. You know, since and then obviously since the additions of Andrade and Ortiz, you know, it's been really, really, really strong. And I'm looking forward to the defense getting better and giving us the opportunity to win these games. You know, obviously because I mean we're not the most offensive minded team, but I mean, but you know, we are scoring goals. I mean, look, 6 goals here in the last 2 games. I can't remember the last time the Dynamo scored 6 goals in the last 2 games. You know, so it's a good thing to see. You know, so we'll see what happens, man. But any more thoughts or anything that you want to add as far as to this NYCFC game that we had? Anything that you saw that you might want to talk a little bit more upon?
Honestly, just the main highlight here is I just want to go back to what I said about the back line because I feel like in this game, this was a much better game from Femi Awodesu and Ethan Bartlos appearing like all the way in the back because we've already seen a couple games this season where they just have been very out of touch or just making some very risky moves, and altogether they were just like caught flat-footed and conceding goal scoring opportunities consistently, which was very worrying.
Mm-hmm.
And this game, I felt like they had a much better performance overall, and we only conceded one shot on goal, which is fantastic, and a lot of that goes to the back line here, especially them for just staying on their toes at all times and just preventing all those type of opportunities against like essentially against Jonathan Bond because the last game against San Jose, I felt like they gave up on him
Mm-hmm.
after a pretty good performance, just conceding the 2 goal lead there, and yeah, a lot of credit goes to defense that night, and also I wanted to say that man, Gabe Seagull, with we like to we like to keep him some memes here and there, but the games that he shows up, like he's gonna show up and he almost gets the hat trick. And I'm gonna say I'm gonna say that this game he got a hat trick because he was almost nearly at the end of that ball, like for the first goal that turned out to be an own goal. But I still counted it as a first goal for Gabe Seagull, and he got a hat trick. So I don't think
We'll see.
anyone's gonna complain about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of unfortunate. Jokes aside, that it was an own goal, but then again, Gabe Seagull kind of forced the defender to do that. So
Yeah, for
at the
sure.
end of the day, it was like man of the match goes to Gabe Seagull, and
Yeah.
yeah, just being an absolute menace and replacing Ponce, who wasn't it's under suspension due to yellow card accumulation.
Yeah, you know, and it just kind of builds confidence in him because to be honest, that was the biggest surprise when I saw the lineup sheet, you know, because obviously I knew Ponce was going to be out due to yellow card accumulation. So automatically I thought, oh, it's a perfect game to get Toasi in there, you know, get him minutes against, you know, get him starter minutes in MLS, you know, and hopefully, you know, it builds him up. But when I saw Siegel there, I was like, wow. I was like, well, you know, maybe Toyosi isn't ready, but it showed that you know Siegel was ready and he grabbed the bull by the horns and took advantage of this opportunity. Now, another thing that we gotta mention, Andres, that we haven't mentioned yet, and obviously I wanna highlight as well is we finally saw the debut of Dwayne Holmes, and what a nice debut. You know, came in was he came in uh man on a mission, to be honest. Like
Yep,
I saw an intensity in him. Him coming in, he wanted to make a difference, and obviously he did by collecting the penalty
yep,
in the box that obviously Siegel scored later on to get his brace. But I mean, I saw him determined. Yeah, he understand. I think he comes in understanding that you know he's a little behind of everybody, and he wants to contribute as soon as possible. You know, and you know I think we've been a little bit lucky as far as with our new players. I mean, you know, excuse me, you know, Linger came in, contributed goals right off the bat. Ortiz has contributed goals right off the bat. Andrade has contributed goals right off the bat. You know, Toyosi got his first assist the other day, playing in the game. So I mean, like these newcomers, even though we might not notice it or might not be as noticeable, as somebody coming in and scoring a brace or hat trick or whatever, or just scoring goals on a constant basis. But these new acquisitions have contributed, man, and it's a good sight to see that that these guys are at least getting building chemistry within each other and getting very comfortable. One thing like I mentioned, I'm surprised at how quickly the defense has been able to be collectively better because since Jonathan Bond has become the starting goalkeeper, he's accumulated 4 clean sheets, and that's a very good sign. Obviously, um, the credit those clean sheets go to credit the goalkeeper, but I mean, but without a good defensive front in front of you, you don't get those clean sheets. And obviously the loss of Eric Shamrashenko, is a big blow, and then obviously the loss of Mikhail in the beginning of the season is a big blow. But these guys, they came in and they're ready to go. They're ready to go. You can honestly sleep. I mean, there's conversations in the fan base. I mean, like who's gonna be my starting left back now? Who's gonna be my starting right back? Who's gonna be my center backs? And things of that nature. And that's good to see. You want to see competition within your squad. That keeps everybody inter- entwined and
Competing, engaged. Yeah.
competing. Because like I said, it's not a bad it's not a bad problem to have. I know sometimes people will be like, "Oh man, but so and so is going to lose minutes and this and that." Look, man, there's always injuries. There's always other tournaments. There's always things that happen for everybody to get the minutes that they require and stuff like that. And sometimes it's not even about being the starter. Sometimes it's about being the closer, and being able to defend whatever you're trying to defend at the end, especially for a defensive player. But like I said, look, I like the left back being Andrade and the right back being Escobar. And for those who don't know, Escobar is naturally a right back. He's just been playing left back for us because of necessity. Because of how good Dorsey has been. But he's finally been able to play his primary position because Andrade has come in and been such a bright light to the defensive side of the ball. And it's giving Dorsey a little bit of a break, man. Hey, Dorsey is our Iron Man. Don't no, don't get
Yeah.
me wrong. There's no
Yeah.
disrespect to Dorsey here. Dorsey has had back to back MLS Team of the Week performances and stuff like that, and things of that nature. But he deserves a little bit of a rest too, and it's good to have that option where you can sit down a player of Dorsey's caliber and bring in an Escobar, bring in an Andrade. So I mean, I see no problem with it. I'm enjoying the defensive unity back there and all that good stuff, and I hope it continues, and I hope we keep stacking up these clean sheets because they can't beat us if they're not scoring goals. So that's the one thing I know. Happy birthday to Andrade. There you go.
Happy birthday.
Um, with that being said, anything you want to add on Holmes and anything before we move on?
Yeah, honestly, going back to Dwayne Holmes, I feel like it was a big showing coming off the bench and then making his first ever appearance with Dynamo. And I was genuinely concerned after that step because it looked like like the defender was just like about to, like literally, like plant his foot on his leg, and I was extremely concerned it was gonna be like a bad foul. But credit to Dwayne, he was just able to draw the foul and set up Gabe Seagull for an amazing penalty kick,
Yeah,
which like
that was
almost ripped open the net. But
that was confidence right there.
yeah, a confidence booster for sure. And I mean, just and also going back to what you said about the competition in the roster. I mean, at the end of the day, still we have a huge roster of players competing for a spot here,
Hmm.
and and considering the fact that we have to rotate with all these games ahead of us, we have to give a chance to everyone to an extent as long as they
Yeah,
earn it. And I mean, we're about to get back Lawrence and Ali, and at some point Nelson Quinones, which is great.
hmm
Welcome back very soon, Lawrence and Ali. That it might just be a couple more weeks, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. But I mean, all these players, they're hungry. As long as I see them want to represent the orange jersey, they just sweat for the jersey as well.
Yeah,
Man, they want to work. They're hungry. They want to win games, and they're in the right mentality because we started the year obviously worst start of the worst start ever by Dynamo. Like after 5 or 6 games, if I'm not mistaken. But when now we're in the middle of the pack, which is what matters the most because that MLS grind is insane. So it's looking good. It's looking good. The boys are fighting, which is what I want to see more than
yeah.
anything. And man, I'm looking forward to the upcoming game this weekend against Kansas City and how they close out heading to the international break.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I'll make this quick little remark before we move on. Obviously, when you bring in new players and stuff like that, you kind of, as a fan, as a mindset, right? You kind of think, oh, we brought in this player because we lack in this position, which obviously, we have been lacking on the scoring prowess, and we're thinking like, oh, so Toyasi is gonna have every opportunity to flourish when Ponce is not available or when he gets tired, right? But that wasn't the case. And then people forget about a player like Gabe Siegel who's been in the Ben Olsen system for a year and a half already. Prior to this year. So I mean, he understands the requirements and he understands what the coaching staff and Ben is looking for. And like I said, when you have a game like this, it just builds confidence, and then it kind of takes him out of the shadows and reminds the fan base like, oh, we might have somebody else. We thought Toyasi was going to be that guy, but in reality, it might be Siegel. Who knows? Who knows, right? Obviously, it's one game, and what a game it was. But hopefully he can build on that and continue to flourish as our backup nine. Um, with that being said, Andres, I posted a question on Twitter not too long ago, and shout out to everybody who participated in the poll question on X and all that good stuff. For those who don't know, my handle's at Chess Segovia. So I mean, if you get an opportunity to follow me. Obviously, I'll put questions up from time to time. But I'll parlay it here. 7 league games in May, 5 down at that time, and two more to go. Dynamo currently with a 2 win, 2 loss, and 1 draw record for 7 points. How many points do y'all expect Dynamo to get home from the last 2 games at NYC and SKC at home? Obviously, the win at New York City was a big, big, big boost to this. So obviously now it's 6 games down at 10 points, with one remaining. But before we get to the to what to SKC, you know, let me give you the results here, and then we'll talk about what happened in San Jose before we get to the SKC. But
Yep.
70% of the voters said that if the Dynamo can get anywhere from between 2 to 4 points, that's what they're predicting. 22% said let's get 6 points, both 2 wins, and a couple of you guys said, hey, these are the Dynamo. They sometimes have a knack to disappoint us from time to time. Um, 0 to 1 point, which obviously that's not going to happen now with this win. So we'll see if we're able to be greedy and beat SKC this coming Saturday. But before we get to that, man, um, the San Jose game. Let's talk about it. We mentioned the week prior that the San Jose game was going to be a little bit of a man. I don't know what to expect, because San Jose under Bruce Arenas is a completely different team. A lot of veterans, a lot of offensive weapons. Joseph Martinez, Hernan
Mm-hmm.
Lopez, uh, Arango, even though he was injured, Espinosa. A lot of veteran players as far as like Mark Anthony K. Players of just of that nature that have international experience, have been double digit goal scorers, all that, right? I was pleasantly surprised when we went up 2-0.
Yep.
Great to see, great, and trust me, great to see Ezekiel Ponce get on the score sheet, score that header 1-0. And then obviously after that, um, what was it? Who scored the second goal? I can't remember. Who scored the second goal? I know it was a defensive player. Was it
Felipe
Andrade?
Andrade. Yep.
Yeah, Andrade. Back to back games scoring goals. So it was a complete just utter shock, right? So I'm thinking, we're going. This is great, you know.
Hmm.
And then a typical Dynamo fashion, 10 lousy minutes happen, and bam, 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 like nothing. Down 3-2. Your thoughts at that moment when we were down 3-2, right after blowing that 2-0 lead?
I came into this game with the expectation that this was going to be a high scoring game,
Mm-hmm.
just based on how I've seen San Jose improve on the Bruce Arena and essentially a brand new team. Because last year, San Jose,
It
they,
was a bottom feeder.
yeah, they won the wooden spoon if I'm not mistaken, but like they essentially turned things around. They've been a fantastic team to watch in terms of entertainment. And I was sitting there, I watched us score 2 goals, and I was like, "This is a very good start, but we cannot afford to concede a goal here because I feel like they're gonna start up the attack." And thankfully, the way they've been playing, especially in the first half, I felt like they're playing very good.
Yeah.
Even though I feel like San Jose was just threatening a lot in that first half, and I was extremely concerned with how the second half was going to turn out. And the second half happened, and I was like, I'm not as mad, but
Yeah.
I'm still angry because we just bottled a 2 goal lead.
I mean,
And
they say that the 2-0 lead is the most deceptive lead in soccer. So, those 2-0 is the most deceptive lead to have. But yeah, man, and I think I made the prediction of a 4-3 win by San Jose, so I wasn't too far off, right? So, yeah, I mean, man, I was like, what is going on? Because, you know, obviously, I know San Jose has the firepower. They have the veteran presence. They're a team that's fighting for playoff positioning as well. So they have a lot of they're at home. So it's a lot of stuff going their way. So did I expect to win 2-0? No. I mean, I kind of figured like, hey, look, can we hold on to this win? Possibly, like I said, because like I said, the defense has improved. These guys are their chemistry is getting better and better after each game. But when San Jose just wham 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 back to back to back, I was like, wow, that it just happened in the blink of an eye, and it kind of caught me back, kind of caught me off guard, man. I was like, shit,
yep,
excuse my language, but I'm just like, man, like, it's it's a tough pill to swallow because obviously, like I said, we even though our trajectory right now is upward, but I mean we're kind of still shooting ourselves in the foot with these ties that we should be get that should have been wins,
yep,
these points that we're letting go, and thankfully, obviously, Dorsey scores the game tying goal at extra time, to give us the point, and obviously
fantastic. Hmm.
road points are golden points, but it was, man, it was a tough game because think about it, and obviously this is Monday morning quarterbacking now. San Jose is at 22 points. We're at 20, right? With that win, if we would have taken that win, we would have been at 22 points, positive goal difference, and San Jose would be at 19, just ahead of Austin for that final playoff spot. So, and we would be in seventh place if I'm not mistaken. So, 10 minutes changed a lot. That's two spots, two spots that we lost because of those 10 minutes. So I mean, it happens quick, but like I said, but thankfully the guys were able to get past that, fly across the country, come back on a Wednesday, heavily rotated squad, and pick up this W. But like I said, now we're on to the last game of May, and SKC at home. SKC is not at the best of times right now. They are one of the bottom feeders in the Western Conference, but obviously it is a rivalry game. Um, your thoughts on SKC, and do you think we can pull off the back to back wins, man? Can we pull off the five? Okay, we can we continue our our what is it? What do you call this streak? Our
Unbeaten
collective
streak.
unbeaten streak. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. We're 4 games unbeaten, which is fantastic,
For sure.
considering the bad start.
Yeah.
And I see Sporting KC, and they're not as bad of a team as they were last year.
Mm-mm.
They're definitely pulling in as many results as they can, even though defensively speaking, they've been very shady. They still have a decent forward line in between a Shallowy, which has been a player that has been an absolute menace against Houston like for the past few years, and Joveljic. So I feel like it's going to be one of those games that the back line is going to be tested again, and they're gonna, like I said, every single time, and it happens like every time like opponents try to play against us, they're gonna look out for the counterattacks. They're gonna look out for the defense to screw up. They're gonna press as much as possible to the back line until they screw up, and
Hmm.
they're gonna try and find Jonathan Bond in uncomfortable situations.
Yeah.
And and honestly, shout out to Jonathan Bond. I haven't said this yet, but shout out to Jonathan Bond because I'm sold on him now. I've been Blake Gillingham fan since day one,
Yeah.
and I was kind of salty that Bond came in and took
Oh,
over his spot.
I think we all were.
Yeah, but Bond already proved himself. Like he made some very good stops that that literally contributed to the results for the Dynamo so far since he's been starting. So shout out to him,
Yeah.
and man, that big save against FC Dallas, man, like whatever, like they be like a massive shot from the halfway line, and Bond was like right there to do like a back dive save to put over the line, which was
Hmm.
incredible. And and yeah, just a shout out to Bond. But in this game in particular, I feel like they're gonna do all that against the defensive line, and they just have to be patient and just move the ball as much as possible because I feel like they'll be able to break through a Sporting KC's line as long as they're not parking the bus.
Yeah. I mean, and then on top of that, I mean, literally have our best players rested. I mean, Bonse is going to be fully rested. Basi is going to be fully rested. Linger only played 30 minutes against NYCFC, so he should be well rested. Kowalovic is available. So the fact that we were able to grab those 3 points at New York with such a heavily rotated squad, I mean, I think we look really good going into sporting and going back home, against SKC, and I don't see why we shouldn't be able to annihilate these guys. If not, do have a nice goal scoring clinic on them. Like I said, obviously, Sporting Kansas City is not a team that I would take lightly, regardless of the form right now. I mean, they do have a couple of nice players up there still. But I mean, but obviously you do want to take advantage of the fact that they are a weaker team this year, and you want to make sure you protect home. I mean, home points should be a given, right? When you're at home, you should be winning your games at home.
Yeah,
At the very least, grabbing points every time you're at home. So, with that being said, I mean, like I said, I mean, look, yeah, if you would have told me, hey, out of the last two games, I can get 4 points, I would have taken that. Yeah, for sure, because I would have thought, hey, if I can pull off the tie at NYFC and obviously win at home, great. But now that we've got the win on the road, there's no reason why we shouldn't get the 6 points. Like I said, at some point, the Dynamo have to start stacking up wins on top of wins on top of wins, and not let go of these points that and not let these points, go fade away from us, not turn these wins into ties. And this is a good start, because after this game, they'll have the international break. They'll have a nice little break before their first game in June, which will be, I think, sometime in, I think, for June 14th, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously we're out of the U.S. Open Cup, so we don't have to worry about playing that tournament at the moment. But the team will have a nice little 2 week break to get everything acclimated to take care of whatever little injuries and little knacks that the players have, and just get a breather, because May was congested. May
Yeah,
was it was like, it was what, nine games total, if I'm not mistaken, with everything going on.
yeah. It was just a slammer, like a
Yeah,
literal
so
grinder of a month
yeah, so
of
nine
literally
nine
back to back to back to back games with the Open
exactly.
Cup, which was must have been very tiring for the players, and
Yeah, so
yeah,
so
they need
nine
that break for sure.
for sure. And nine games in 30 days. That's not nothing to blow over. I mean, that's basically a game every third day. And that's a tough part of the schedule to get by. I mean, but now you've gone through the toughest part of the schedule. I mean, if we win Saturday, or when we win Saturday, that's 13 points out of a possible 21. In those 7 games for and league play, which to me, to be honest, I mean, look, man, like I said, it should be 15, if we didn't mess up the San Jose game, but 13 out of 21, that's a good showing. That's a really positive showing for a team that was, if it hadn't been for LA Galaxy, to be honest, would be, you know, the bottom feeders of the West. But with that being
Yeah,
said, look, I'm happy. I'm excited for this Saturday. Uh, Currently, we're in the eighth spot, if I'm not mistaken, in the playoffs, or eighth or ninth. Help me out on this. But we are currently in playoff positioning, so
ninth
that
place. But yes, we're in the playing spot.
so obviously that's always a good point. So just we'll see, man. We'll see. Hopefully everything goes good. I mean, and obviously this Saturday is a huge soccer day. Obviously we have the Champions League final. We
Hmm.
have we have the play in for the Club World Cup, which will be America versus LAFC. Obviously we have the Dynamo versus Sporting Kansas City, and I think there's another game too. Oh, Salvador versus Guatemala for those Central Americans. Um, and other things
That's
going
gonna
on.
be insane, man. Like,
For sure, for sure, for sure, man. A lot of soccer going on. Andres, let me get back to that game for you though. Your prediction in it. Uh, I want to know what do you predict the score is, and obviously who scores the goals.
there's gonna be a 3-1 win for Houston.
Hmm.
The goals are gonna be from Ponce, Linger, and I'm also going to have in there kind of like a little like a little treat. I'm gonna have Femi Aguadesu scoring a goal there, and like
Ooh.
kind of a corner kick goal. And I'm feeling confident about this game.
Hmm.
The one the one thing I have to emphasize is that anything other than a win is a failure here because we've
Yeah.
already dropped enough points at home, especially at the start of the year, that we cannot afford to lose more. And they have to win this game to close out the to close out a big busy month. And heading to the international break, man, something to look forward to because Jack McGlynn is going to be out like when the Gold Cup starts, and he's going to be for a national team. So he's going to have a big showing as well, I feel like, and and we'll see. But have a win here.
3-1. Jeff is
Yep.
asking, no love for Gabe. Andres, no love for nephew.
I mean, I feel like he's going to be coming off the bench in the second half, but I feel like he's going to give an assist somehow.
Somehow.
Like
Okay.
he has enough goals. He has to share. So yeah,
Hey, I haven't gone into a Dynamo game as confident as I feel right now. So so it's kind of an awkward feeling for me right now. I don't want to get too amped up, because usually when I get that amped up and excited, usually it ends in some kind of failure and loss of expectations, right? And to be like I said, with everything the way it's going, look, we've gotten 10 points in the last 4 games, 10 out of a possible 12. Right, that's a great, great stat. That's awesome. It should have been 12 of 12, but I mean, but like I said, 10 of 12, great to go into to go into your last game of the month against, like I said, one of the worst teams in MLS right now. To with the momentum that you got going, that with basically your best players fresh, available, and ready to go. I mean, what else do you need? So I'm expecting something amazing, to be honest. Like I said, obviously, first things first, you want to collect the win, and obviously, if it's a 1-0 game, it's a 1-0 game, you get the win, right? But I mean, but to be honest, I think a 1-0 game is it's a little bit of a disappointment. I if we have our backups over here scoring 3 goals against NYFC, NYCFC, who are a better team than Sporting Kansas City, why can't our regulars like Ponce, Bassi, and Linger, put up more, right? And can't afford any complacency. Yes, that's for sure a fact, Jeff. Dago says, is Ponce on the upside, or is he still disappointed? I think he's on the upside. Look, he scored a goal against San Jose. Obviously, like I said, he was suspended due to yellow cards on for the NYC game, but I think that he's gonna get going here pretty soon as well. And like I said, this break that's coming up, this little 2 week break that's coming up after May, it's gonna give him time to rejuvenate and to train with the newer players. Look, like I said, Holmes, great start, great debut, right? Linger, he's played with them a couple of games now, but now you can start really getting to get to know the guy. McGlynn obviously is going to be off to the U.S. Open, USA man national team camp, but I mean, but that is what it is. Excuse me. So I mean, you get a little bit of time to reset your battery and all that good stuff. So I think June from here on out to the end of the season should be Ponce time. But my thought for this game, Andres, I think it's going to be another clean sheet for the Dynamo for Bond, his number five. And I think it's going to be a 5-0 game. 5 goals in one game for the Dynamo. Five. I think Ponce is going to come in back motivated, rested. I think he's going to have a brace. I think look, man. Hey, our defense is scoring so much goals for us, man. It's impossible to not predict a defensive player to score a goal. But who? I think let's get Bartlow a goal, man. Bartlow needs a goal. So that's 3 goals right there. Um, I think maybe a Jackie McGlynn, a cannon before he
I'll
leaves
take it.
off,
Yeah.
before he heads off to Pochettino. Yeah, 5-0, Andre. You heard me, 5-0. That's
It's
how I feel.
possible.
That's how I'm feeling, man. That's how I'm feeling. Look, man, we 4 game unbeaten streak, 10 points out of a possible 12. I'm confident, man. So
It's
against Sporting
possible.
Kansas City, uh, SKC, they're bottom feeders, man. Let's treat them as let's treat them as such. Let's make sure we go out there and we do the damn thing. I mean, look,
Yeah.
like I said, Ponce is gonna be rested. Bassi's gonna be rested. Lingard only played 30 minutes. Holmes is gonna want to show out again. You know, like let's do it, man. McGlynn is gonna wanna do something before he leaves to the national team camp. 5-0, baby. 5-0. Brace by Ponce, a Bartlow goal. Um, You know what? I'm gonna get my man Ladero come in off the bench. He's gonna score a goal,
That'll be
and
amazing.
you know what? Holmes goal.
Damn. All right.
So
All
five,
right.
five, 5-0, 5-0, baby. That's what I'm expecting this Saturday. I'm expecting this Saturday to be a great Saturday for the Dynamo fans. Well, it's gonna be a great soccer Saturday first and foremost. But I mean, but there you go. You get a goal. You get a goal. You get a goal. So But yeah, man, dude, there's no reason why we shouldn't be feeling confident, you know,
Yeah.
going into this game. Like everything is really lining up for the Dynamo. It's just like like Jeff mentioned earlier in the chat. If this team gets complacent and they lose this game, like, to be honest, with all the good stuff that has happened the last couple of weeks, losing this game is gonna really shit on now. It's gonna really shit on all that. Like, it's
Yeah.
gonna really take a huge crap on all that. So all that 10 points out of 12, blah blah blah, this is and that. You lose this game against Sporting Kansas City. You even tie this game against Sporting Kansas City. You basically took a big ass dump on the end of the month.
It definitely
Like,
be a failure. Yeah.
it's definitely a failure, sir. I mean, I don't think it should be like that. I think Dynamo should go in there knowing that they're about to have a nice little break and
Yeah.
dominate for sure. Anything else you want to add to this Sporting Kansas City preview before we move on?
I mean, your scoreline is viable, um, and obviously they're gonna play a perfect game. But I definitely see it just depending on how, offensively speaking, we just like go out there guns blazing and just get the job done. And it definitely be a confidence boost for the team heading into the international break.
Mm-hmm.
And it will definitely be nice to see a team scoring 5 goals. I mean,
See,
I definitely once they noted that.
yeah, and and I know sometimes the guys are going to question us on the chat, be like, 5 goals. You know the Dynamo that after 2 or 3 goals they kind of want to park the bus, but that's not the case, man. Look, now we have rotation now. We have depth. We have players who want to show out. Like I said, look, you think Holmes, who just debuted this Wednesday, doesn't want to come back and have another showing out, especially in front of the home crowd? You don't think he wants to show up? You know,
That would be
Kowalovic,
nice.
or whoever. You don't think he wants to keep everybody knowing, hey man, don't forget about me. Yeah, I know we got Linger, I know we got McGlynn, I know we got Bossy and all this, but I'm still here. Like these people, you forget these players are competing for minutes. Ladero, Ladero, he's obviously that veteran that we're kind of holding on to. He wants to show out. He's a professional. He wants to make sure that he's still getting minutes and he's still getting match time, playing time. And then think about it, like I mentioned, our defense is scoring goals like no other. You know, Andrade is coming. You don't think Andrade is on a high right now? The way he's playing, like he's literally on the verge of benching Escobar or Dorsey. You know, like that's crazy to think. I've mentioned it on this podcast before. I think that Escobar, aside from Barrett, obviously, might be our best left back in Dynamo history. And that's not even him playing his primary. That's not even his primary position. You know, so for Andrade to come in, do what he's been doing, and now finally giving Escobar the opportunity to play his primary position, it's a great thing to see. And then obviously a lot of people who love Dorsey. I love Dorsey. You know, well, what does that do with Dorsey? Hey man, hey, Dorsey has to show up too.
Yeah, everyone.
Everybody has to show up. You fuck up one game, you might be sitting on the bench for a while, baby. So
No, I mean, but that's definitely the drive the team has, or at least how I see it, especially with how they've been able to turn things around in terms of mentality and just having a pretty bad start to the year.
mhm.
I believe it.
Yeah, like Jeff says, I love the passion that it has. I mean, dude, look, I know there's a lot of big clubs in South America. Hold on, guys, excuse me. I know there's a lot of clubs in South America, a lot of big clubs in South America. Brazil has a lot of big clubs. Argentina has a lot of big clubs. The thing about it is that even though you might play for a big club, and Fluminense is a big club in Brazil, but a lot of these clubs are financially strapped. A lot of these clubs, you know, don't pay their players on time. You know, and that doesn't happen here in MLS. That doesn't happen. You get paid on time. You produce. You become a starter. Doesn't matter who you are, how much you get paid, where you came from. As long as you do the job and you do the job great,
Direct deposit every time.
direct the check hits the bank account
Early payday.
hey every first and the 15th, every first and the 15th. So those guys are excited and they're happy for the opportunity. Um, to do what they do, to do what they love to do, to be able to play the game that they love on a professional level. So, with that being said, like I said, I mean, dude, any player on this team right now, you have you have a shitty week or two, you're gonna sit on the bench.
Yep.
There's somebody behind you now that we're getting all our players back. There's someone sitting behind you now who's capable of taking your spot, and that's a great thing to see. And speaking about spots, speaking about players, speaking about new players, there's 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 rumors. There's rumors of more people
Yeah, man.
coming.
We're back.
Rumors of more people, more players. And it's crazy, man. It's like you think about it, Andres. Think about it, man. Put yourself in Ben Olsen's shoes. Like you have all these players now. You see the uptick that the Dynamo have taken as far as competitiveness and obviously the chemistry that they've built, right? And on top of that, what's looming? The summer transfer window. You know, summer
Yeah,
transfer
yeah.
window is about to open up. You have options. Do we bring in a third DP? Do we bring in another U22 player? What are we looking at? What position do we need competition at? You know, and obviously a couple of names have popped up. Obviously, it's early in the process, so I mean, obviously these players could just be names showing out there, whatever, and stuff like that. You guys know how the rumor mill and the summer transfer window is, but I mean, but it's always great to hear your club connected to players and linked to certain type of players, and these two players are playing for the same team in Argentina. Um, what team is that? Andres, Union. Sorry, I just looked at it
Yeah,
right now.
Union.
Union in Argentina. One's an offensive player, a striker named Tomas Romero, who's 20 years old. I think he actually is on their B team at the moment. He's not on their A team. And then obviously a midfielder by the name of Mateo de
De
Blanco,
Blanco. Yep.
who actually is on the A team on their first team. So um, Dago says we bring in Brian Rodriguez as a DP. He'll be cheaper now that America lost to Toluca. Drago, that's possible, but if America beats LAFC Saturday, they play in the Club World Cup, and I doubt that they want to give up Brian Rodriguez
Yep.
ahead of that tournament. So it just depends what happens Saturday. So I mean, oh, and shout out Ache Ache. I'm an America fan. Hey, I mean, we back to back wins for La America, but shout out Ache Ache with lifting the Liga MX trophy, all that good stuff. But but yeah, but man, I don't. Brian Rodriguez would be a great signing. I think he's done really a really great job at Club America. Obviously, he didn't really meet up to the potential when he was at LAFC, but I think he did a really good job at Club America. So, and I think he would do a great job here at the Dynamo. To be honest, if that were an opportunity, but I think Inter Miami is kind of looking into that. But obviously, a lot has to do with whether or not Club America qualifies for the Club World Cup this Saturday. So we'll see what happens with that. But with that being said, I mean, hey, Pat and Asher are in South America and Argentina specifically, and they're looking at these two players. Do you have any information on these two players, Andres, that you want to share?
I did because I did see the rumor from Cesar Merlo, which is essentially the Latin American Fabrizio Romano, and if you know, you know. So anything that he says is pretty much almost a done deal, if not already. And I did see some information about Tomas Romero and also Mateo de Blanco. Tomas Romero is mostly just a striker, and it could be one of those positions that we're looking at for those because according to the report that Merlo posted, it's looking like they're going to be starting with Dynamo Dos early. and even Tomas Romero apparently like he's already with those, so we'll see if that's the case. And they do have a game tomorrow against Austin FC2 here in Austin, so I hope to see him there. That'll be
Yeah.
quite a surprise, but yeah, just a 20 years old, a 20-year-old striker from Union in Argentina. Definitely a good upside. Like every single time there's a dose signing like this, it's it's remarkable, and it's just great to think about because obviously there's gonna be like some hits and some misses for sure, but it's always good to think about this kinds of signings because Houston, as for the past few years, especially when they had those going on, they have more of a reach to sign these type of players on a good deal and potentially have the option to buy for the first team. So, Tomas Romero, a striker to watch, and I like to see him play. I've only seen like a few highlights. Like he might just be like a target striker. I hope to see more of that, or just to see how he plays like in person if he's already in Houston. And Mateo Blanco, a 21-year-old from the same team, like you mentioned, he's been playing for the first team. I did tell you before I started recording that he plays midfield, and for the most part, like he can play like on the wing, and he can also play fullback,
Mhm.
which is definitely good. And
It's the type of player that they look for, somebody who can play different positions. You
yes,
know.
yes, and if it definitely turns out well, like I feel like it's definitely like a first team signing in the future. But of course, he's going to be with those whenever that signing materializes, and I don't think the transfer window has an effect on MLS Next Pro, if I'm not mistaken.
Well,
It's yeah,
no, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I don't think it has like an effect on MLS Next Pro unless there's like some sort of deal they do. But yeah, for it, I definitely don't see him in the first team in like for now, obviously. But
Yeah,
it's something to consider for those. And if you haven't been watching those, watch those. They're one of the best teams in the conference.
yeah, yeah. So for sure, I like obviously the Romero deal is more of a Dino Dos deal because he plays for the B team for Union at the moment. Well, he was playing for the B team Union prior to him being linked to us. So obviously he's like one of those. We're trying to build him up, and hopefully he makes the first team. Later on the season or start of next season or whatever, however that goes, which is always good. Like you said, you're always trying to get these players to come in and build minutes and let them learn our philosophy and play and see if they're ready for this type of atmosphere. De Blanco obviously is a more he's a little older. Well, he's like a year older, but he is playing for the first team. A little bit more of a more steady prospect, I guess. I would think he would be one of the players to come in as far as be straight to the first team, but obviously that would be maybe a couple of games at Dino Dose to get to get a little bit under a couple of minutes underneath his wing. But we'll see what happens. Like I said, summer transfer window hasn't opened yet. It's just rumors that we're just starting to hear. Obviously, it's great when a person like Melo is reporting that because he is, you know, somebody who has a lot of pull in South American soccer, and obviously with transfers and stuff like that. So usually, if he says something, it has legs. It has legs. And things of that nature. Dago asked about Daniel Herrera. That's another player that we heard about from
San Lorenzo, yeah.
that I saw. Jeff, what is the Spanish version of America? Redneck sounding version for Club America. It's El America way. That's how it is. That's that's what they say. What else was I gonna mention prior to that? So we'll see. Like I said, obviously they're gonna supposedly open up a week transfer window for the clubs that are involved in the Club World Cups, which is obviously Miami, Seattle, and possibly LAFC. I think the winter transfer window opens for the rest of the league on the 14th, if I'm not mistaken, Andres. Maybe you can correct me on that. I'm not too sure. So obviously, like I said, whether it's Daniel Herrera. Blanco or Romero, whoever else pops up or whatever on our radar. It's great to hear, but obviously those rumors are just rumors until the window actually opens up. But the one thing I will say that I'm enjoying is the fact that I'm hearing about it before the window opens.
Yeah.
You know,
July
like
24th is when the window, a secondary transfer window opens in MLS.
okay, so yeah, I thought it was July 14th, July 24th. Okay, so yeah, so it's obviously good to hear about these players ahead of time, before anything, before it opening. So hopefully, because they're talking about it and credible sources are reporting that they're linked to the club, that when the window opens, they will sign them. They will sign them hopefully quickly, and they can get acclimated to the system as quickly as possible. Because you know, the end of July, you basically have two months left for the season before you're into the playoffs. So those players, if depending on how many players come in, if they all come in or if one or two come in, have to get acclimated quickly to the system if they're gonna be if they're gonna prove to be any involvement with the current squad for the season. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm excited. The Dynamo, obviously, right now, like I said, as far as the team goes, is on an upward tick, and that's what we want to see. They're currently in a playoff positioning, and it's good to always hear about players being linked to the club. Andres, anything else you want to share before we move on? Daniel Herrera, do you have anything on him by any chance?
I was gonna say for Daniel Herrera, definitely a viable signing that I see from Dynamo is to go for another under 22 signing. He's a 21-year-old center back from Argentina.
Mhm.
He came out of the San Lorenzo Academy and already played in the first team. So I'm sure he's definitely capable of playing with the Dynamo first team as well. And I only say it's viable because they can probably open up another uh, under 22 spot to make room for him. And depending on the green card situation with some of the players on the roster, it's definitely viable. So it's definitely I feel like it's possible, and there's definitely a need for center backs right now in the team,
Mhm.
and just having that Herrera there might just add some more competition as well. And of course, kind of makes you wonder the situation with Eric Svechenko, which is definitely disappointing, but we have something
Yeah.
to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like we said, ever since Jonathan Bond came, he has four clean sheets, which is really great. The defense is really acclimating to each other, and that's without their captain. That's without our captain, Eric Shevchenko, who the Dynamo made a priority to resign, to bring him back for more years because of his leadership and what he brings to the club and the toughness and tenacity that he does bring, which let's not mistaken. Let's not kid ourselves. We do miss it, And shout out to Eric. Hopefully you get well soon, big guy. But with that being said, guys are stepping up and they're taking opportunity. They're taking advantage of their opportunities, and
Yep.
that's what you love, and that's what you want to see. So, um, obviously, you guys know that I have a reoccurring question that I ask before the end of the show. And usually it was a negative question I was asking, and that negative question was, "Are Dynamo MLS worse?" Right? But obviously, after this nice little unbeaten streak that we've gone on, I can't really ask that question anymore. It's not fair. It's not fair because it's not. It becomes a rhetorical question. You know, LA Galaxy exist. Those
Yeah.
guys are about those guys hate us so much that they can't let us have any records. So they said, you know what? You got a 16 game lose what is it? Um
Winless streak.
non-winning streak,
Winless streak.
winless streak. We're gonna take that from you guys. And we're like, well, go ahead, take it, man, guys. Whatever. You already beat us at a two MLS cups. This is that. You might as well take that record too. But it is what it is. So let me ask this question now. Currently, the Dynamo are in playoff positioning. I think you mentioned they were in eighth place, if I'm not mistaken, Andres.
Ninth place.
Ninth place. Ninth place. Are the Dynamo playoff bound? Are you confident? Do you have a lot? How do you feel now about the Dynamo as far as them being a playoff contender? Not
They
a
can
not
def-
not 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 not, not just a play in, a playoff contender.
Definitely, and I'm only going off the fact that they've been able to outperform expectations for the past couple of years, and despite the slow start this year, it's definitely possible. If they're just able to like stick to their guns, have that mentality that they're able to bounce back and keep getting results, especially at home, they can definitely get past the playing spot because I don't like that playing spot at all. They definitely have a long season ahead to get more points, keep climbing the standings, and not mess up here because they cannot afford to keep dropping them.
Yeah, that's you know. I think as far as with everything going on with the Dynamo, and the Dynamo just getting healthier, I do believe that the Dynamo are getting back to being a playoff contender. I'm on the cusp of whether or not they're a play-in team or they're actually going to be a playoff contending team where they'll fight for a fifth, sixth, maybe a fourth position, right, in the West. It's still quite a bit of a season to go, but I like the way that the team is going, and obviously, like I said, you got players coming in that are ready to acclimate themselves to the team and to take opportunity when opportunity presents itself. And when you have that combination, only good things can happen. I hope, and obviously, the competition all around the squad, as far as all the positions, that's just going to make the team better overall as a whole. So we'll see what's up. And like I said, at this current moment, I believe that the Dynamo are playoff bound and more, and I'm leaning more towards being a playoff contender than just being a play in team. But obviously, with that being said, this Saturday is gonna do a lot to me wanting to ask that question again next week or be more adamant as far as answering that question next week. So we'll see what happens this Saturday. But with that being said, guys, Andres, let everybody know where they can find us, where they can get a hold of us when they want to.
Yeah, man. First of all, I want to say thank you once again for getting us past 300 subscribers on YouTube. It means the world to us, and the support is definitely there. So we appreciate you guys for tuning into all of our episodes, sharing them, subscribing, following everywhere we are, and we definitely appreciate it. If you're not following us yet or not aware where we are at, we do have a few handles on social media. At Dynamic Foxtrot, we're going to be on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. We also have a separate handle on X called Noodle Tiempo, which is a separate handle where we try to compile as many news as possible and give it to you guys in a nice package. And whatever you're watching this, wherever you're listening to this, of course, one of the best ways to watch is YouTube. Just try Foxtrot, type Foxtrot TV on the search bar. We're already there, and pretty much all the content we're going to be posting is going to be posted there as well. If you guys want a place to watch, also Ghost TV, a pretty good platform to discover other saga content creators like us. We're also there with the same handle at Dynamic Foxtrot. Just search Foxtrot TV there in the search bar as well. And wherever you listen to the podcast, like your favorite ones or like this one, just look up Noodle Time. We're gonna be there for sure. And, yeah, man, just a lot of I just feeling very thankful, especially with all the type of support we've been getting, and we're gonna keep going.
For sure, for sure. Before I do the outro, I wanted to ask this real quick.
Yeah,
Andres, PSG, Inter Milan, who wins?
I'm gonna go with Inter Milan. I don't feel okay with PSG winning, even though they have a good shot of PSG of winning it because this is the best PSG team I've seen,
They're,
and
they're actually
they're very complete. So they can definitely win it, but I feel like Inter Milan just like squeeze by.
well, okay. I'm going PSG. Uh, America, LAFC. Who's gonna go to the Club World Cup?
Man, I really want LAFC to win because I don't get good vibes from America ever, but
Yeah.
that'll be nice.
I'm obviously I'm an America fan, and obviously disappointing that we lost against Toluca in the final. So I am going to go America over LAFC. Even though it would be nice to have a little bit more representation of MLS in that tournament, but I got to go with my America. But
Yeah.
with that being said, guys, we appreciate it. Like Andres mentioned, thank you guys to help for helping us to get 300. Now the next goal is 400. Let's get there as soon as possible, so that way we can keep climbing and going and keep doing what we do. And like I said, guys, we're nothing without you guys, and we appreciate all the love, support. Reach out to us anytime you want to on our social medias and all that good stuff. If you have any questions or anything, shit. If you wanna if you want to come on the show for a little bit or whatever, let us know. Shoot us a DM. We can work something out, see what's going on, whatever. We're willing to make things happen over here. But with that being said, guys, thank you. See you Saturday. Let's go
And
Dynamo. Let's get that W
before we go, big shout out to everyone in the chat that has been
for sure.
contributing to tonight's episode. Adago, Jeff, Adrian, Jay Hurtado. We appreciate you guys for your support, and for everyone that's been tuning in all the way to the end of the episode. I did promise a giveaway item. It won't be announced anytime soon, but since you guys are already here, the giveaway item from my end is going to be a Albert Feliz bobblehead, which
La
is in this box right
Panterita.
here. So I'm going to be giving this away at some point as a special thanks for getting past 300 subscribers.
La
So
Panterita.
stay tuned to my Twitter account. I'm going to be giving out the information as well. So as a thanks, guys, this is going to be the giveaway. So the bobblehead's here. Don't worry, but
For
but
sure.
yeah, just a surprise there.
For sure. That's one of the classic bobbleheads in Dynamo history. So that's a good one. And we'll have many more giveaways along the way as well. But with that being said, guys, see you Saturday. Go Dynamo. Let's get that W, and obviously and always throw the H's up. Hold it down for H Town. Let's go Dynamo.
Always.
Hi Kiki.